So in this video I will show you how I have done the takeoff shot in Adobe After Effects and also how I've done the close-up shots of me flying through the air using Adobe After Effects. After we've done all of this, I will also show you a way to generate some really impressive and dynamic flight shots without all the high budgets and time invested in creating this effect, so you can get a really cool effect at home. For this we will be using today's video sponsor, but I have been using them for years now because I really enjoy their service, and that is Artlist.io. I'm always happy when Artlist reaches out to sponsor one of my videos because I have been using them for a very long time for their music, sound effects, stock footage and so on. And I love how they include almost all AI models currently available. They actually have their biggest sale of the year going on right now. So if you want to have access to high quality music, sound effects, footage, LUTs and the latest AI models, click the link in the description below and get 2 months for free. Alright, so here we are in Adobe After Effects, and if you want to follow along with this tutorial using the exact same video files as me, you can do so by downloading them with a link in the description below completely for free. Once you have downloaded those files, I imported them in Adobe After Effects. As you can see, we have here the takeoff video. I'm going to drag and drop this into a new composition. And as you can see here, I'm acting like I'm jumping up in the sky, but of course I'm not flying just yet because I'm not really good at that skill. So once I've done that, I will try to find a time where I actually start flying. So that would be somewhere around here. So what I will do right here is go to Edit and then split my layer or hit Ctrl-Shift-D. Then for the rest of my clip, I want to remove anything in here. But first I want to preview my entire video to see if everything looks good. Okay, so now we're going to focus on this part. As you can see, I'm right here in the shot and that's exactly what we don't want. So what I will do is click on my pen tool here and I will make a selection around my body. This can be a very rough selection, as you can see right here. All we want to do in the end is make sure that I'm covered by the mask entirely. Then press M on the keyboard and set this to none. Then also click on the stopwatch for the mask path to create a keyframe. Move further into time and then press V on the keyboard to select your selection tool and then drag this down. And then select these points to offset them to my hand and just realign it where necessary. Go in between and then fill up these so the entire mask is covering my entire body. Then review your footage to make sure that the mask is covering me up entirely. And once you have done that, we can set this mask to subtract. So now I'm just a black mask. Select this clip and go to Layer, Pre-Compose and move all the attributes into a new composition and call this Key Flight and then click OK. Now we're going over to the Content Aware Fill tab. If you don't see that, you can go over to Window and choose the Content Aware Fill, which is right here. So make sure this is checked and then go and find this tab right here. I'm going to set my fill method to object and I will do a light correction, work area, everything seems good. And I'm going to generate a fill layer at first to see if this works. Before we're going to do the generate fill, I like to pre-compose this one more time. So I'm going to pre-compose this and call this content fill. Click OK and then open up this composition. So we're just working with this exact duration. Click on this layer and click on generate fill layer. So now I'm out of the shot, but I still see a little bit of a edge blend here that isn't going too well. So I will delete this and jump back into this composition and click on my mask or my layer here, press F on the keyboard, maybe give it a little bit of a feather and try again. And this looks great. So now we can go back to our main composition here. And now we will see that I'm doing a takeoff and I disappear, which is exactly what we want. The only thing here is that we now want myself to continue, but on the frame before we don't see my feet here, so we don't have my entire body in frame. So what I did is I went back until I do, but here I'm not in the right pose, so I will try to correct this. I'm going to hold Ctrl and press D to duplicate my layer, and then I will right click and go for time, freeze frame. And then I will also go to the roto brush tool, double click on this footage, and we're going to select my entire body here. Hold Alt to remove parts of this mask. Once you are done, we can hold Ctrl, Shift and C, move all the attributes into a new comp and call this roto. Click OK, and then right click again, time, freeze frame. That way the roto is now frozen on the entire clip. We can bring this all the way on top, and now we go to this pose right here, to the frame just before I leave the frame, and I will bring this right here, and I will also click on the puppet pin tool. So click on that while this layer is selected, and we can also solo it so you can see only this layer, and then click here and make some selections on the body so you can then adjust the legs like this. And you can also show the mesh here. If you want to make adjustments, you can do an expansion of the mask. You can also add more density, and that's completely up to you. So now that we have this, we can unsolo this, and we can move these buttons into place of my existing arm. Also, we want to extend this leg and the knee so it looks like I'm actually standing straight. Go to the moment where I should start flying through the air, something like this. And we're going to press U on the keyboard, and right here we will see all of the keyframes that we have created with the puppet pin tool. We can also press P on the keyboard, click on the stopwatch, press S on the keyboard, click on the stopwatch, and maybe also rotation. So before we're going to start animating, we're going to use the pen behind tool. We're going to bring this to the middle of my character. Go back to your selection tool, press R on the keyboard, and click on the stopwatch as well. Press U on the keyboard and then go forward in time. And basically we want to move over here, but we do want to get smaller. So we're going to scale myself down quite a bit. Something like this. And try to keep the same motion from the path compared to my body. So my body goes in that direction. If it's like this, you can see that the line is not really in the same position as my body. So I'm trying to give it the same motion. So that way it looks like something like this. And now right here, what I can do is, for example, right here, he's going to fly that way, but we do want to rotate it. So I'm going to choose my rotation tool, rotate myself just like that, and just make sure that I always follow this kind of path, and then move further, and we go out of frame. Something like this. Drag everything back, and you can also adjust everything here. Maybe you want to move it over here and this over here. Try to have a very smooth angle here. And you can also play with these handlebars to make sure that you have a little bit more of a fluid motion. And now if we're going to preview this, of course, we do want to start this clip at the moments that I disappear. So starting from here. So now I'm here in the frame, boom. There is fake Ignace, and there we go. I also want to move these three keyframes, the position, scale, and rotation, one frame back, so I'm already in motion when I'm about to do my flight takeoff. Right here, I still want to be in this kind of motion. Okay. And I'm going to delete these two keyframes to keep everything smooth. Then for these keyframes, you can offset them for the timing and then hold Control, click on them to give it a smoother animation to continue from. Something like this. You can also open up the graph editor, and right here you can select these 3 points here, and then pull this handle in a little bit and pull this handle out a little bit, and like this it will smoothen out your animation. For these keyframes, for the rotation, we can press F9 to rotate very slowly and go to the graph editor and bring this inside like that, and that way it's going to rotate very slowly until we're at the end point. Of course, it still looks pretty fake, so it's going to be a little bit of a trial and error where you're going to find the smooth variation. But what you also want to do is toggle the switches until you can see this icon right here. This is to enable the motion blur for this layer, and now you will see that there is some motion blur on my body here. You can press U on the keyboard to reveal all the keyframes except the puppet here, and maybe select all of these keyframes, hold Alt and then drag them in to make your animation faster or slower. I do want a lot of motion blur. That's going to remove a lot of the fakeness. So there we go. This is starting to look pretty cool. We could go to these keyframes and maybe scale myself down even more. So maybe something like a 3. I should be pretty small when I'm that high. And what you can also do is move these keyframes even further. For the scale, I'm also going to press F9, so it also starts to scale down at a slower pace. So I'm big in the beginning, but towards the end I slow down drastically. I do feel that I should already be higher right here, so I will do something like this. Okay. And so what you can do as well is go to different frames, for example right here, and go to the puppet tool and also animate some of your legs a little bit, very subtle. And that just gives a little bit of motion to the entire body, like it's actually alive. So after playing around a little bit, I found something that I like. So once you're satisfied with your animation, you can select all of these clips and go layer, pre-compose, and then call this Superman Takeoff. Then we're going to right click here and go to frame, to time, enable time remapping, and around, let's say right here, I'm going to create a keyframe, select the 2 last keyframes and then just pull them in a little bit, so everything happens a little bit faster, like I actually do have superpowers. Maybe a little bit slower, but not too much. Okay, cool. So right here we can press N on the keyboard and then right click trim comp to work area. So we are now working with the exact timing of our shot. Next, we're going to create a new adjustment layer and we're going to call this shake. And then I will go over to my effects and presets. And I'm going to search the quick shake preset from us. So if you want that as well, you can download that with a link in the description below as well. And that's completely for free. So I'm going to double click on that. Press U on the keyboard and then go to the position where I actually take off around here. We're going to shake it up starting from here, and then we can go into the settings here, check the use composition shutter angle, and then we're going to set the shutter angle to 180 so we create a little bit of motion blur as well. And then we're going to offset this keyframe to my time cursor so we can now see there is a blue point at the stopwatch. That means we can now change this to set, let's say, 100. And so now we do have a lot of shake from the second I lift off. And this just helps a little bit with the impact of it. We also prepared some smoke elements that I have created for a pack, but the pack isn't released yet, so you can download them for free with the tutorial files. And I'm going to drag the 07 in my clip just below the shake, and I'm going to place it in here, right click, and then go to time stretch. And I'm going to speed it up like by 4, so I'm going to set this to 25 and then click OK. And go a little bit back. So we do have some smoke starting from here. Press P on the keyboard, click on the stopwatch, go further in time, and then we can just bring this down. And that makes, well, that gives a little bit of a smoke effect. And then bring it down here. We can also enable motion blur for this. And I'm also going to add a tint effect to my smoke because it's way too brown right now. So I'm going to double click on that, set it to something like 70%, and then press T on the keyboard and set it to something like 20% opacity. It's very subtle, but these little extras usually do sell the effect. It really depends what kind of shot you are using. I'm going to bring this first key a little bit back so the shake starts a little bit slower. And there we go. And this is how we do the takeoff in Adobe After Effects. Now, we also have a shot right here that is called flight. I'm going to bring the flight into a new composition. This is where we were recording outside with a portable green screen behind me. The most important thing is when you're using a portable green screen is to keep it at a little distance from yourself so you don't cast your own shadow on the green screen. And also the best possible daytime is during a cloudy day, so everything has a very soft shadow. So this is what we did, and we have a very clean green screen now that we can simply remove. So I'm going to Effects and Presets and search the key light effect, and I'm going to apply this to my footage. Then I will go over to Intermediate Result, and I will click with the screen color on the green. Before we go into Intermediate Result, I do want to make a check here in the screen matte. This gives me a great representation of my shot. So now we can open up the screen matte right here and increase the screen black until we don't see any bleeding of white in my shot. We can do the same thing with the clip white, just don't exaggerate these numbers more than necessary. After this, I'm going to set this to Intermediate Result, and I'm going to search for the Advanced Spill Suppressor. So I'm going to bring this also on my clip, and it's going to remove the green halo around my hair, for example. And so now we have a keyed version of myself. Now, of course, we need a background, and we have to make it look like I'm actually flying. So I'm going to create a new solid layer, and I'm going to call this Sky. Click OK. And in here, we can search for the gradient ramp right here and apply this to your sky footage. And I'm going to choose a bluish, grayish color. Something that kind of looks like sky. Let's start with this and then go into the black. And here we choose a different color that is very looks very close to the other one, but this does give a bit of a more realistic look in the end. Keep the bottom part lighter than the top part, and that's going to give you the first sky map. Then next we want to create a new solid layer, and this is going to be our clouds. So we're going to click OK, and then use fractal noise to play clouds. So I'm going to double click on the fractal noise effect, go into the transform, and then the scale, I'm going to bring this up until I feel it looks a little bit like clouds. We can also set the complexity to 4, so we have a little bit less complexity. You can keep the fractal type in basic, and you can set this to spline. You can invert it if you want, and this starts to look a little bit like clouds. So now what I will do is bring down the brightness and maybe play with the contrast. I don't want too much contrast, so I'm just going to play with the brightness here and see if the invert is better than the original version. I'm going to leave that up to you. In the end, it doesn't really matter that, too much. I'm going to head over to the beginning of my timeline with my time indicator and then click on the stopwatch for offset turbulence and then go all the way to the end of my clip. And the second value, I'm going to pull it down just like this. We do have just 1 second of footage, so I don't want to move it over too much. So we have something like this. Really simple. So now we want to duplicate this cloud layer with Ctrl D. Make sure that you have the layer selected and not the effect, otherwise it's going to duplicate your effect. And now we want to press U on the keyboard and we want to move it over a lot. So I'm going to hold Shift and increase this number quite a bit so we have fast clouds. Is this fast enough? I don't know. Let's see. I think this is fast enough. So these are going to be my top clouds and these are going to be my background clouds. So maybe we can rename this to BG and this is going to be foreground. And now we can place my flights in the middle of them and change the foreground clouds by toggling the switches right here until you see mode. And we're going to change the mode to, I'm not sure if I can make this bigger here. I'm not sure. Right here, okay. So now it's set to normal. We're going to change this to screen and now we see the clouds in front of me. And for the background clouds, also set this to screen and there we have it. Now we can solo these clouds right here and screen does make it quite light. So let's see for lighten. I think lighten might be a better solution for us, but in the foreground, I'm going to stick with screen and press T on the keyboard and just lower this value drastically to something like 25%. And in the background, press T on the keyboard and set it to something like 70 or 60%. And right now we do have our sky, we have subtle clouds in the background. Of course, you can also work with actual images that you use in the background and just use a fake fractal noise in the foreground, but this does represent speed in my opinion. Next, what we're going to do is I'm going to click on my flight footage and I'm going to press Ctrl D. And then I will also click on my sky and hold Ctrl and press D. Bring this just in between them. And I'm going to use the track matte option to pick my duplicated flight scene. And so now I have myself in a blue version of myself. So I'm going to select these two files and go over to layer, pre-compose them. And this is going to be my bleeding color. And I'm going to click OK. Next, I'm going to duplicate my flight once again. So Ctrl D. And I'm going to use this bleeding color again on the flight, but this time I'm going to invert it so it disappears. Then on my flight layer, I want to add a fast box blur. And if we apply that right here and increase it, you will see that my edges start to have a nice light wrap. So I'm going to choose something like 40. And then I'm also going to click on my bleeding color, press T to lower the opacity a little bit. And that way we do blend a lot better with the background, I think. So play around with this until you see something that you like. So next we are flying very fast through the air. We are being recorded by a camera. Obviously, if you're going that fast through the air, the camera is going to shake. So this does sell the final realism. So I'm going to right click and create a new adjustment layer. Bring this on top and call this shake. And again, I'm going to use this quick shake preset that you can download on our website. First, I'm going to right click on tile center, reset, anchor point, reset, and position, reset. That way, I'm sure that the anchor point is perfectly in the center of my footage's resolution. So next, I'm going to remove the keyframe for the strength. And I'm going to set the strength to something like 40. I'm going to set the speed to something like 10, and I'm going to uncheck use composition shutter speed and set it to 180. And that way we're going to have some shake on our footage, and that's going to bring everything nicely together. It might be that this is not enough, so if you want the shake to be more intense, all you have to do is change the strength value to something else. Maybe let's go for 80, so we have a very dramatic shake. And this is looking all right. So for the background clouds, you can maybe increase the opacity and decrease the brightness and maybe increase the contrast so we can actually see some differences in there. And maybe do change it to screen and let's play with the opacity. I do want to see my clouds, but very subtle, something like that. And you can always go back to your sky and maybe add a little bit more saturation in the sky. The shake is a little bit too much, so I'm going to take the middle ground and set this to 60. So if you want to record yourself on a green screen and make it look like you're flying, you can use this technique for basically any type of angle or shot. The only problem is, if you really want to create a very dramatic flight shot, what you will need is a huge green screen studio where you can have a camera go around your character, and usually the actor is hanging with cables and cable systems. You have giant air vents that are forcing air upon the actor. Then you also have your camera that is usually on a robotic arm. So it's an extremely expensive way of filming, and it also is very time consuming to then add VFX on this. So that's why, as a DIY VFX YouTuber, I wanted to find a better way to do this, which would be way more budget friendly and would take way less time. So that's where today's video sponsor comes in, Artlist.io. So let's see how I have created a very dynamic flight shot using their website. So on Artlist.io, I go over to AI image and I will go over to image to image. In here, I will upload a image, and as you can see, I have a bunch of images from our set. So right here, I am actually flying through the air. So I'm standing here on something that is higher than me. So I have a bunch of different versions. Ideally, you would be using a version with green screen, but I just want to show you that it's also possible without. So I'm going to click OK on this image. And now I can prompt whatever I want to see. So what I've done is, this man is flying through the sky at super speed, just like Superman. His body is horizontal, flying forward, and keep his outfit the exact same without adjustments. Cloudy sky environment, no motion streaks except subtle white smoke, just like an airplane coming from his hands and feet. His both arms are at the side of his body, just like in the picture example. So I didn't go extreme with my prompt, but I found that sometimes it requires high detail with a lot of exact information, but also sometimes the more information you feed it, the more confused the model is going to become. So keeping it simple with the exact same words that you want gives it a little bit more freedom, but on the other hand, usually performs better. It really depends from what you're trying to accomplish. So what I want you to be aware of is that AI is not here to replace a VFX artist's work. It's here as a tool and to help you in your work. And whenever you're trying to create something using AI, you're not going to get your best result in one generation. It's really a conversation you're having with the AI, finding the best result. So we're going to generate this in Nano Banana model in 16:9. Click generate, and that's going to generate your image in the background. It usually takes up to 30 seconds to 1 minute max to generate your image. And then you can also animate this within Artlist.io, which is absolutely incredible. While this is generating, I also want to say that usually when I create something with AI, I don't just stop there. So all of the skills that you're learning in Adobe After Effects actually help you to improve your AI generated prompts. Usually there is not a lot of shake, or it doesn't look too real because everything is so clean, and sometimes I even have to remove things from my AI model and replace them with visual effects. So it really depends, but having the skills and AI combined together, it's really promising. I know a lot of people are scared of AI and that they are going to lose their jobs to it, but the reality is AI is here to stay and it's not going anywhere. So all you can do to put yourself safe is to start learning it at least. Even if you don't like it, give it a try, understand it, and know its limits and where its strengths are at. And then use it as a tool instead of a replacement. If you want to use the exact same prompts as me for your AI generations, you can also find those in the description below. So once your image is generated, as you can see right here, you can continue generating until you're completely satisfied. For example, right here, my face might be a little bit too dark, but that does come from my example image. So try to improve that up front, or just tell the AI that you should be brighter. But this does look really cool. So now what you want to do, if you want to animate this, you can either upscale it or animate it. So I'm going to click on the button to animate this image, and that's going to move it to the AI video and image to video. It's also going to create a suggested prompt, which you can use as a base, but I already have my prompt, so I'm going to paste that right here. I have as prompt, animate a figure flying through the cloudy sky. The character should start from the left side of the frame, soaring upwards and leaving a trail behind. while the clouds shift subtly, emphasis, smooth motion, and gradual acceleration to create a sense of soaring through an expansive atmosphere. The wind is waving through the hair and jacket, the camera orbits around his flight path to create a dynamic camera movement. Then right here you can select which model you would like to use. I'm personally a big fan of the Kling 2.5 Turbo, so I'm going to select that one right here. Then set the duration you want to use for this clip, 5 or 10 seconds. I'm fine with 5 seconds, and then you can also choose the resolution, which is currently at Full HD, and then you simply click Generate. You're going to get a ton of different generations each time that you're creating a new generation, so if you're not satisfied, prompt a little bit more or don't and just click again on Generate if you are close. Once you're satisfied, you can preview it right here, and then you can also click Download. So right here is my downloaded video. I'm going to import this in Adobe After Effects. So bring your AI generated video in Adobe After Effects and create a new composition as well. So just drag it on Create New Composition to copy the details. Then next I'm going back to the composition that we have created earlier with the shake and the foreground clouds. I just like to bring these two by holding Ctrl and pressing C and then Ctrl V right here over to this composition. With the shake and with the foreground clouds, it's definitely going to sell this effect a lot better. So I'm going to click on this keyframe and delete the last keyframe because I want it to go in the correct motion. I'm also going for Layer, Solid Settings, Make Comp Size, click OK, and right click, Transform, Reset. Same for the shake, I'm going for Layer, Solid Settings, Make Comp Size, New, right click, Transform, Reset. Then go into the effect controls and then right click on the tile center, reset, right click on anchor, reset, and right click on position, reset, just to make sure everything is set up correctly. Press U on the keyboard for the foreground clouds, and with the offset turbulence right here in the middle, we want to go all the way back and we want to offset this to a different side. So maybe to the right, but drastically. So we're going to offset this to the right drastically. So I'm going to hold Shift and just move this over extremely. We do want to create kind of a sense of speed. Press T on the keyboard and set the opacity to something like 15 to keep it very subtle. But now with the screen shake, it does sell the effect a lot better. Of course, it's a little bit too intense, so I'm going over here to speed and set it to 6, and for the strength, I'm going to set it to 40. And just these two subtle things on the AI generation looks like a big difference. And this already creates a very big difference. Maybe you also want to speed it up, so you can right click and go to time stretch and set it to 50, for example, to make it even faster. Usually the AI generates everything a little bit slower. So right here, I'm going to press N on the keyboard, right click and trim comp to work area. Next, I want to go to my shot and add RSMB. This might be that you don't have this available, and this is a paid plugin, but honestly, there is nothing better. You can totally skip this step, but this does sell the effect a lot better when you add motion blur to your scene. As you can see, without motion blur, it looks very sharp and it looks very AI. Add in some motion blur and everything looks a lot more real. So if you're going to play this and in this rotation, it's not going to be too sharp. I really like to add RSMB on AI generated footage. Then next, we can also add in some noise and add in the noise right here and set it to something like 5% so it doesn't look perfectly sharp. Next, we can do some minor color grading, so go to Lumetri Color and double click on that. We can also go into the exposure and maybe increase the exposure of our clip, but then for the highlight, lower the highlight quite a bit. And like this, we can totally manipulate our AI footage with our After Effects knowledge. Pretty cool. Alright, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, give this video a like. Also be sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to stay notified when I upload new videos. I hope to see you in the next one. Until then, create epic videos. Bye.